all the jobs that were coming up were like behind the scenes. And I was really adamant. I was like, if I start a production job, I'm gonna get, literally March 2008 is when I launched. And when he heard my news, he goes, you're a great newsreader. Unfortunately, you won't work for the Hindi stations. Whatever you do, whether it's like a good grade that you get, you passed a test that was really difficult, you became a doctor, you started your first office job, you started driving, whatever it is, I'm gonna go there for 1 or 2 years. This is everyone's Dubai story. I'm gonna go there for 1 or 2 years. I'll get the experience and I'll come back. That never happened.
Hello and welcome to the Social Kandura podcast. My name is Gaurav and I'm being joined by Priti Malik. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
You've all heard her on the radio. You know, there's so much that we hear about you on radio, on Instagram and everything else. Good to finally see you in person, and thank you so much for coming down over here again, you know.
I'm excited. Thank you so much for having me.
Perfect. So how did your journey get started from New York to Dubai to radio? And how did that shift? Did you just wake up one day and be like, right, I got to go to Dubai? Or how did that start?
So I think when we're in high school, we all kind of go through this existential, I don't know what the word is, but you know what I mean? Like this crisis of like, what am I going to do with my life? I'm Desi. So a lot of times our options are doctor, or lawyer, engineer. Those were not options for me. Lawyer was a possibility for me. I've always been loud and talkative and combative, and you know, I'll be the one to pick up the mic and talk at a party from when I was young. Always been a performer. And so when I grew up in New York City, so when I was 16 or 17, around there, we had a half day from school. And at this point, I fully thought I'm going to go into law. Like, I really could not think of anything else that kind of goes with my personality. Nothing.
Were you part of a lot of debates?
No. But it was literally the only thing that I could find some sort of like, okay, maybe I'll become like an entertainment lawyer. Like, this is what I thought in my head. Like, okay, I love the industry. I love talking, as if there's a correlation between talking and law, but I mean, you're 16, right? Like, you're just trying to figure it out. So we had a half day from school and we decided to go to Times Square, and MTV studios are in Times Square. And way back when we were younger, there used to be a show called Total Request Live, and they had a live audience on the street. So we had a half day from school, so we decided to go. I think the guests for that day were maybe the Harry Potter stars. So we were like, oh, we'll be on the street. Maybe we'll get on TV or whatever, you know? So we're standing there, and one of the hosts of the show came down, and they always do like a live link from the street. So we're like standing behind, and I'm looking at her. Her name is Hillary Burton. She used to be on One Tree Hill. And I'm looking at her do this live link. And I'm like, it was like a light bulb. And I was like, that's what I want to do. That's what I want to do. I want to be her. Like, how do I do that? So I went home that day, and at that point, MTV still had an MTV News arm, and they had music journalists. So I started like Googling, what did they do in college? Maybe I can figure something out. And that's when I realized one of them did broadcast journalism. And I was like, oh, I didn't even know that was a career. I did not even know that was an option. I didn't know how people became news presenters, you know? So I was like, okay, well, that's it. I'm doing broadcast journalism. And that was the day that I decided. So my high school, luckily, was a great New York City public high school where the last semester of our senior year, they let us do an internship full time on your choice, whatever you want to do. So I was lucky enough to get an internship with a radio station in New York City. So instead of going to school, I worked full time at a radio station.
At 17, 18?
Yeah, 17 years old, 18 years old. And I'm an intern at this point. So I used to clean out the prize closet. I used to call back prize winners. And I was just hungry, and I tried to learn as much as I could.
Hustling and
like I just, from then on, I never looked back. It was always going to be radio or television.
Wow. That's very, you had your thoughts straight. You knew what you wanted to do from day one itself, and you worked out towards it.
And I majored in broadcast journalism in college. I did my internships in college. I learned everything. I joined a radio station in college. I was on radio when I was in college. So my radio has been a long career. Like it's, I don't know, I want to say 20 years.
You want to feel old, yeah.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like nearly 20 years, it's been a while. So as far as Dubai goes, it was interesting because I graduated college at 21, graduated early, and I decided to take like a few months where I was like not going to worry about anything, because that's like the last time in your life when you don't have to worry about anything.
True.
So I did that, and then I was like, okay, I got to apply for a job. Now you think New York City, you're like the middle of entertainment, like it's either LA, New York, right? Like that's what you think. Worst, because you're so young. You have no experience.
Correct.
How are you going to compete with people who have been in the industry for 30 years, 40 years, you know?
You don't stand a chance, yeah.
Who's this young kid coming in going, yeah, I could be on, you know?
Yeah.
So I started broadening my horizon a little bit across the United States. Nothing was clicking. All the jobs that were coming up were like behind the scenes. And I was really adamant. I was like, if I start a production job, I'm gonna get, no disrespect to anyone in a production job, but that's not what I wanted to do. I wanted to be on air, on camera. And I was like, I don't want to be stuck there. I need to continue my momentum of doing.
Being seen, being spoken to.
Yes. So I just kept doing, and then I started doing MTV India. Let me just apply there. Then
why not? Yeah.
I had a cousin who was doing his master's in New York at that time, and he's from Dubai. He grew up in Dubai. So I have a cousin who used to live in New York, and he grew up in Dubai. And he goes, yo, just apply to this radio station in Dubai. I was like, as if I'm going to move to Dubai. It was City 1016. So he goes, apply. And I was like, I'm not going to move to Dubai. He goes, just do it. And I was like, all right, fine. At that point, like I'm panicking because I'm like, I'm not getting a job. I need to do something. So then I was like, do you know anyone? And he goes, no, but I listened to this newsreader. His name is Sachin Kumbar. And I was like, okay, do you know an email address? He goes, no, but try this. Matlab tukka. What is the... Just shot in the dark. He goes, just try this email. Sachin Kumbar happened to be the head of news at that point. I said the email was correct. You know when they talk about stars align? The email address was correct. I shot off an email. It was correct. He asked for my demo. March is when I sent that. March is when Virgin Radio Dubai launched in 2008.
Just getting goosebumps just hearing that.
Yeah. March 2000, literally March 2008 is when it launched. And when he heard my news, he goes, you're a great newsreader. Unfortunately, you won't work for the Hindi stations, but we have, at this point, I didn't know that Arabian Radio Network had all these stations. And he goes, we've got 3 English stations and we've just launched a new one, Virgin Radio. So we're looking for news presenters. You'd be perfect for it.
Wow.
And that was it.
That's it. Yeah.
And I was like, am I moving to Dubai? And I was like, yeah, okay, I'll move to Dubai. And literally, that was in March. By the time our conversations and everything and the paperwork, obviously at that time a little bit slower because it was a different world. This is 15 years ago. And then August I moved.
So that's quite a journey of like, just like, it's, I think it also boils down to just take your shots. As long as you don't take the shot, you don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah, I think my parents thought I was crazy. My parents were like, you're moving out of New York. Like, what's wrong with you? In my life, I never thought, Gaurav, like I would leave New York City ever in my life.
Were your parents supportive about it? Or?
I think initially they were worried because I'd never been I went to Dubai when I was like 3 maybe, but I've never been. And here I am, I'm going to pack my stuff and move to a completely foreign city. It's not even like in the United States. It's a different country, you know what I mean?
It's an 18-hour flight.
It's, about a 12 to 14-hour flight. So it's just like, what are you doing? And then I was like, listen, I'm going to go there for 1 or 2 years. This is everyone's Dubai story. I'm going to go there for 1 or 2 years. I'll get the experience and I'll come back. That never happened.
So even radio, that's what whenever we speak, we look at RJs back in our days. You would only hear a voice. I was such that if you see an RJ in person, you would not recognize that person, right? Because you've never seen them. You don't know what they look like. Cuts to the age of Instagram, cut to the age of social media where everything is so visual, people know you by face, people know you. How much has that journey transformed from an RJ's job of just being like, right, here's the mic, here's your studio, blah, 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 that's it, go home. Versus now you have to also the additional, might I say, pressure of creating content and being relevant on social as well. How much does that change your, perspective towards the whole RJ thing? And, was that something that you planned for or you just sort of went with the flow that I have to be on Instagram?
Definitely went with the flow. When I started the job, we were able to wear sweatpants baseball hat and flip-flops. I still try to. I think that the job traditionally of being on the radio has not changed. I think everything else is kind of extra, but it is an important part of the job of now. Seen. Yeah, but I don't think it affects the way that you communicate on the radio. I think this is just an additional tool to communicate with people. You know, when the Instagram wave came on, we all jumped on just like everyone else. And I think for a few years, even I struggled with figuring out what is that extension going to look like for me. I think pre-COVID is really, even though we'd been on Instagram for a while, I think I was a little afraid, which is very not like my personality, but I wasn't sure what I was meant to do on my Instagram. You know, was it meant to be curated, beautiful, glamorous photos at an event? Was it meant to be real, raw? And it's not that I was trying to hide a part. I just wasn't sure
which part to show.
How is it going to be an extension? I think COVID really changed it for me because we were all at home. And for me, if you know me, like I am like chill, like just chill. Like I'm me. Like I don't try to hide who I am. If you meet me in person, I can guarantee you it'll be the same person that you hear on the radio tomorrow because that's just who we are. That's just who we are. And I think that's the best way to be. If you're not real, then why are you listening to me? Why do you trust me when I say something, you know? So I think being real is a really, really important thing. But I think during COVID, I really embraced that. And now if you look at me, you'll see I have no makeup. My outfit sometimes is 75 different colors. And that's fine with me because that's who I am.
And it also like shows that originality. And, you know, when you speak to people or when you talk to people and you talk about the different things, it shows that, listen, I'm true to myself, whether it's on Instagram, whether it's on radio, blah, blah, whatever. It really is true to who you are. And that's testament. And, you know, I concur is like the Priti Malik that I hear on radio. And here is like the same.
It's the same, right?
It's the same. There's just a face to it. Yeah, that's it. I'm like, right, okay, same. So that's a great thing.
And it's not against anyone who has a curated space on social media. For me personally, I find it really hard to uphold that.
Because you burn out.
Yeah, I can't be anyone else but me. Like if I'm turning it doesn't matter to me really, truly, you know, like it's just me. You're seeing me, it's my page, and I want you to know who I am. I love making that connection with people.
And that's beautiful, I think. And also, you know, a lot of people, when they look at radio, you know, it's always been like, oh, this is going to be one of those things where you just talk about content. But now things are moving fast towards where we do not only news, but we also do about things that's happening around the city. A lot of people get the news from the radio when they're driving to work, when they're driving. So that's the time, you know, newspapers, people don't really, you know, open up and read that. Does that bestow an additional responsibility for you individually as a person? That look, now whatever that I read, whatever that I say is what's the source of information for people. Because, you know, so many times like, I heard this on the radio, you know, Priti Malik was saying this. Does that somewhere scare you that, you know, you've got such a big audience now that kind of follow everything that you're saying? Is that a scary feeling? Or?
No, because I think that's the responsibility of a radio presenter. You should never be saying anything that you're not sure of in a news format anyways. I mean, as a journalist, that's probably the first thing that we're taught. Like, make sure what you're saying is correct. And if it's not, and you're not sure, you're probably, you need to say that. You need to be like, hey, I'm not sure. It may be this. So I think that just comes with the part and parcel of the job. Like, you need to be responsible of what's coming out of your mouth, what you're saying. I think we've always known the weight of that. And I think that's a weight that all people in media carry. Because you can't just go on and give false information to people. It's just ethically, it's wrong. Like, you just can't do that. Unless it's an honest mistake, which may happen. It's like, then, okay, you apologize and you correct yourself and whatever it is. But we have a great news team, the Air and News Center, who feed us all the information as well, and they're amazing at what they do, and they always check with all the sources, and they're spot on when it comes to making sure all the for sure.
And very interesting is, like, you know, when people start seeing you and people start hearing you, when was the first time that someone pulled you up in the mall and be like, are you Priti Malik? Did that happen, or how was the first time when that happened?
I mean, it's just one of those things that still makes you go, what? Like, they know me, you know? But it's such a wonderful, warm feeling because to whoever, whether it's day 1 or day 3,000 of listening to us, we feel like, our listeners are a part of our family and they're part of our lives. True. We go on the radio and we share a lot of personal stuff. Yes. We really get real and we talk about everything that's going on in our lives. And it's not easy to do that. So we're trusting our audience to receive that information. So it's like our family. So I love meeting people when we're out and about because obviously we work on the radio, just like you can't see us, we can't see you.
True.
So
yes.
It's so amazing to meet everyone who listens to our show, young, old, in between, from all walks of life, all different nationalities. It makes us so proud that, this is the family that we've created and this is who we share. And it's not just us sharing, our amazing listeners will share their personal stories with us too. That
they
make
call
us,
on air.
Yeah, and they share some really deep truths about themselves. And we're glad that we've created that kind of safe space for people to feel like they can share their stories and have those connections with us live. So if you ever see me, sometimes we'll always get a message. I saw you, but I didn't come up and I didn't take it. Come and say hello. Always come and say hello.
That's a great message because when you see celebrities, celebrities.
Please, I'm not a celebrity.
You are a celebrity. It's like, I know who that is. And personally, for me as well, we're just talking off camera as well. I'm kind of like,
shy.
I don't want to be that person to be like, yo, what the hell, So that's a very interesting thing. And a lot of people, when they meet the people, it's always like, oh, on Instagram this person's different, on radio it's different, but with you it's like it's the same person. It's just like different thing. Yeah, exactly. But how are your cousins, relatives, parents, families, everybody else? This when you get that shot of fame, with post COVID, during COVID as well, when Instagram picks up, everything picks up. How has their feedback been on this whole journey of like 15 years moving to Dubai from day 1 to now? Hey, Priti Malik, yeah, she's my daughter. How is that?
I think there's nothing prouder for any child to see their parents beam with pride. And this goes not just because of what I do, whatever you do, whether it's like a good grade that you get, you passed a test that was really difficult, you became a doctor, you started your first office job, you started driving, whatever it is. I think our aim as children is to try to make our parents as proud as possible, no matter what you do. So, sometimes my dad will be, especially when he flies here, my dad is cabin crew, so he has this thing where he talks to cabin crew no matter what airline he's on. Okay. Whenever he flies over here to Dubai, he'll always talk to the flight attendants. He goes, oh, do you listen to Virgin Radio? My daughter's on Virgin Radio. Like, he'll always do that. And that's just a sense of pride for me. And he did that when I was on a TV show back in New York. He did that when I was on the radio in college. He did that when I was doing my internship, in high school.
The biggest supporter.
Of course, my parents have always been supportive since day 1. Did they fully understand what I wanted to do since day 1? No. But my parents' motto, and I'm so grateful for that, has always been, we're not the ones having to do this day in, day out. It's you. So if this is what you chose, that's fantastic. We're not the ones going to work. But just make sure you can make a career out of it. That's all we say.
That's very supportive,
yeah. Get that, 100%.
Sense, yeah.
So I think they've always been, and same thing for my sister, so like they've always been supportive of us since day 1.
Have you ever had moments in, not just the 15 years, but everything else that you've done before, where you sort of woken up in the morning and you're like, man, what am I doing? Have you ever had one of those?
Not in the sense of why am I doing what I do, but why am I awake at this hour?
Oh God, that's even worse. Because you have to be very up and early.
Yes. So I've always, listen, I'm going to be real with you. It is not normal to wake up at 3:45. It is not normal, and I've been doing it for so many years. It's just not normal. So you never get used to it. So I'll get up, you go through the motions, but when I'm in the studio,
full power.
It's different. Because you love what you do.
But have you been a morning person?
No.
Or you've not? Wow, so that's quite a challenge for you. Wake up at 4 a.m. every day.
Yeah.
Wow. That's
Coffee
is the big mix as well.
Yes, yeah.
So yeah, that's something which, I think you kind of get used to it. And then like when people who wake up at like 6, 7, you're like, oh, loser, already 4 hours behind.
I'm jealous. I'm like, what time do you get to wake up? At 6? This is amazing. Yeah.
That's very interesting.
Yeah.
And obviously working with the rest of the radio, rest of the team, and everybody else as well. It doesn't feel like you're going to work. It's like you're just gonna hang around with your buddies and just have some conversations on the radio. That's what it appears to be. Is that the case as well in real as well?
Yes, they're my best friends. I mean, who gets to say they work with their best friends every day?
Right.
It's amazing. Chris was one of my like bhais who walked me down the aisle at my wedding.
Oh wow!
Like it's just I've known Chris literally since when I got here.
Right.
And Rossi just a few years after that. So we've known each other for a very, very long time. And when you're there at that time in the morning, if you don't like each other, that show won't last. You can't be awake at that hour and work with someone you don't get along with. It's gonna get. You're sealed in a studio for 4 hours every day.
Correct.
There's no escaping. In an office, if you don't like someone, you just go back to your office or you sit in a cubicle, whatever it is. With us, you're talking to each other every day. So if you don't like each other, it's not going to work.
It's not going to work, yeah.
And I think you can hear the chemistry on air anyways.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Same thing on like Instagram and things else as well.
Yeah.
Where do you think the future of radio as such is going? Because we're seeing a lot of changes coming in, We have, City 1016, even versions, so you guys go to different places in the city and you host from there. People come in, meet you as well. Kind of activations that happen as well. Where do you see the future of radio going through?
So radio is one of those mediums where I feel nothing will ever come close to that. I understand podcasts. We're sitting on a podcast here, and this is amazing. We get to have these long conversations. Right. We can talk about whatever we want. But I think the beauty of radio is the instantaneous part of it. Yes. Yeah. So if the other day, for example, I was talking about my parents and I started crying, and it was just a release of emotion. You don't plan to cry. It just kind of happens when you're talking about something. And it was just one of those instant moments. It's happening live on the radio, and then people are calling and they're connecting with the fact that that's just happened. Mm-hmm. That instant connection, you're not going to get on any other medium. And correct. I think because of that, it's just, it won't go away. It won't go away. A lot, especially here, let's just talk about the UAE, for example. How many people come here leaving their family and friends behind? When I moved here, the radio was my kind of only friend, right? How many people say that? The radio was my friend on the way to work. So if that's your friend on the way to work, there's a reason. It's because, all the people that work on the radio are able to make that connection with you. They relate to you on some level. What other medium does that? Yes, we all listen to podcasts, but they're not specifically talking to you. Right. You're listening to a podcast between two people, which is fine. But
not to a one-on-one.
It's a different format. It's just a different format. That's all. They're all amazing forms of media. But the beauty of radio is that instant live connection. And you just can't replicate that.
True. Fair enough. Yeah, makes sense. Yeah. Just before we close in, you're pretty big on dancing as well.
Yeah.
How did that come across? Was that something that was just built in and you just started dancing on camera, or was it something that you just do out of pure fun and you just happen to be a good dancer? No,
so I've been dancing since I was 3. I've been performing since I was 3. We used to do competitions, everything. Mm-hmm. My Masi owns a dance and music school in New York, so we all learned from her. We used to do all the Diwali shows and Holi shows and everything growing up. So I've been dancing always. I even tried for Boogie Woogie when they came to New York. Didn't make it. I've always been a dancer. Like it's just me, who I am. In college, I was the captain of a Bollywood fusion team. Mm-hmm. I was also on a Bhangra team when I was in college. We used to do competitions, go around the States and do all that. Wow. So I've always been a dancer. And then when I moved here, I joined Shamak Dabar for a few years. Then I had an injury, so I couldn't. But I've always been dancing, always.
Amazing. That's very good to hear.
Yeah.
A lot of young girls really look up to you. Teens, young girls, even older ones as well. They always look at you and they're like, oh, she's had it all. It's just everything's for her served on a silver platter. Or they see that, oh, it's so easy. I could go on radio. I could talk to them as well. What's your message to, of course, there are a lot of trolls online. There are a lot of people that say like, oh, anybody can do it. What's the big deal, right? What's your message to those? And what's your message to people who every day in the morning hear you and be like, what? One day I'm going to be like Priti Malik. One day I'm going to do it. To both the different end of the spectrums. What's your...
Okay, so there's 2 things here. And I'll do I'll do it individually. I'll tell you individually. To all the girls, or actually I'm just going to say to anyone who wants to get into radio, if you don't fully love it, you will not last. When I was that promotions intern, I remember my job was just to call prize winners and say, congratulations, you've won this prize, you can collect it and clean the closet. But every day I would ask to do more. There were times when they would say, hey, could you be in this place at 3 o'clock in the morning to set up? Yep, I can. I never said no to anything. Okay, and then after I did that, hey, could you work a full day? Yep, cool, no problem. Hey, we're hosting a movie premiere at night. Could you go in and do some prizes for us? Yep, sure, no problem. So that means from 2 a.m. until 7 p.m. I was working. I didn't complain, I did it, because that's how I learned. I understand now there are conversations around how maybe that shouldn't happen anymore, but I do not regret any of it. I worked hard for everything. Once I decided at 16 that's what I wanted to do, that's all I did. My college life was dance and school. That's it. That means I had a show at 6 o'clock in the morning. So that means I would have to wake up in the morning at 3:30, like I do now. I would get to the station, do my radio show, then attend 5 classes, then choreograph the dance that we need to do for dance practice, then drive to another college to do my bhangra practice, go home and do it all again. Wow. I would take naps in my car to make sure I'd be able to do it all.
Wow.
So like, I have worked hard to get to where I am, and the industry is hard work. So you have to be able to make those connections. No one is going to hand you anything. Just because you walk through the door with a heap of experience doesn't mean that you're going to get whatever you want. True. You got to work hard. You got to show what you can do. And I'm grateful for all the experiences that I've had. So for anyone who wants to do it, work hard, get into a radio station or into a TV station, wherever you can, intern, make connections, learn, make that cup of coffee, do whatever it takes to make connections, because it makes a difference. Show that you're willing to do whatever you can, soak up everything and learn everything, and you can do it. And the other part you asked about trolls.
Trolls and people who say it's so easy for her.
I don't know. I don't know. I don't even know what to say to that. If that's what you think, I mean, that's what you think. Well, I don't know what to say. I don't have to justify anything. If that's what you think, great. But that's not my story. And that's okay. If you don't like me, that's fine. If you don't like what I do, that's fine. If you don't like my voice, that's fine. I mean, I can't force you to like sit and listen to me on the radio.
True, yeah.
That's totally fine. That's why we have so many choices. And if you don't like me, that's okay. But the only thing that I don't understand about all of that is, if you don't like something, I don't know why people see the need to leave the negativity on someone's profile. That's where I think it goes a step too far. Right. Like, imagine walking down the street and you didn't like what someone was wearing. Would you go up to them and be like, yo, I don't like your shirt, and then continue walking? You would never do that. So it's like, why do you stop, see something, then form your opinion about it, and it's completely negative, or it's rude, or it's a horrible thing to say to someone, and then keep scrolling? Like, I don't understand how people take the time to leave negativity on someone else. So it's okay if you don't like me. I have no issue with that. But do we go around doing that in public? I don't know. I just find it weird.
Yeah.
It's fine. I mean, it's cool. If you don't like me, it's fine.
Good for you.
Keep scrolling. Yeah. It's fine. Everyone doesn't have to like everyone.
You're not ice cream. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there's a whole divide: vanilla ice cream or chocolate ice cream.
True, yes.
Are you vanilla or chocolate?
Chocolate. Team chocolate.
I don't know if we can do this anymore.
Thank you so much for spending so much time with us and sharing such insightful information. It's been a pleasure, and we look forward to hearing more of you. We look forward to seeing more of you all across. All the very best, and thank you again for spending so much time with us.
Thank you so much. I had a blast. Thank you.